Hello and welcome to Backstage with Gig Performer. My name is Brett Pontecorvo, and we're here mostly on Thursdays, but this week we are here on Friday. Yes, we are. Wow, checking my days of the week as I do an intro. Go figure. Anyway, this week we're here on a Friday, friends. Thank you for being with us. We're bringing on professionals, semi-pros, hobbyists, the whole gamut of people who are using Gig Performer to do incredible things. And if you haven't heard, Gig Performer is not only exceptionally powerful, but it's also really easy to use. It's fast to get up and running, and we're going to talk all about that today as we welcome on our special guest. But before we do that, if you are watching right now, I would love to hear from you. Go ahead and say hello in the comments. Let us know where you are tuning in from. We always appreciate our viewers. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with us. And if you want to help share this with other folks who might need to hear about Gig Performer, do click the like button so that we can kind of bump it up and all of the algorithms and robots will know that we're here. Friends, coming up next week, we have special guest Tim Starace of the Why Not Rush cover band. He's going to be talking all about how he uses Gig Performer to power all of the sounds that he needs for Rush. And if you're not familiar with that music, go check it out. They do incredible things. And it's going to be a ton of fun. He also is playing bass. He's playing foot pedals. He's playing synthesizers. Really very cool. Let's see here. We've got Dave, the guitar player. Paul's guitar player. Welcome. Thank you, Dave, for being here. We've got former backstage guest Ken Matson in the comments as well. And Ken, we have taken some cues from your audio setup for your backstage guest. So thank you for paving the path forward for us on that. And John Edwards, I'm assuming, also knows Paul. But let's talk a little bit about Paul before we bring him on. Paul Gere is the keyboard player for the band, the Mixtape Junkies. He is using two keyboards alongside Gig Performer to perform his stuff live. And he showed me a little preview of what he's doing. It is really impressive and just really clean, polished, and put together in a way that feels legitimate. It feels like you're listening to the actual music, which you guys will see here just in a little while when we bring him up on the screen. In addition to that, Paul is one of the moderators for the Keyboard Players in Cover Bands group. And if you are a keyboard player in a cover band, what a fantastic resource that group is for supporting you in your journey to being a keyboard player in a cover band, as well as the best place on the internet to find pictures where you can't see the keyboard player. And if you're in the group, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But without further ado, I want to welcome on today's special guest, Paul Gere. Paul, welcome.
Thanks, Brett. Great to be here.
Yes, man. It's a real honor to have you, and I know we've jumped through many different audio hoops to be here. So thanks for sticking it out. So, Paul, for those. Yeah, no, of course, man. It's a serious undertaking. But for those who maybe are not familiar with who you are and what you do, who are you and what do you do, Paul?
So I've been a career professional in the business world, but I traveled in a band with John, actually, who's with us today.
Awesome.
In my college years, and then took a little bit of a break for growing a family, and then got back into it as a hobbyist here in Chicago maybe 10, 12 years ago. And I've evolved from not having a keyboard at that time to the rig I have now. And it's been an amazing journey. I get to play with unbelievable. You should be interviewing Dave, the guitar player, not me today. He's a really good, talented man. So that's my story. And I like the tech side of things. I take a lot of pride in crafting sounds, so hopefully that'll come through in the next hour.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know that it will, because I've seen some of the stuff you're doing. So you started with a hardware keyboard. Was the Mo DX your first hardware keyboard?
No, actually, I started out with a Motif. Okay. and then moved from the Motif to the Modi X, really in an effort to lighten the load,
Okay.
as so many do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I imported everything off the Motif into the Modi X, and then paired that with a Korg Kronos,
Okay.
which I burned that boat probably early January after
Okay.
I finished my transition to the Gay Performer based second keyboard.
Okay. You know, a lot of hardware players have a hard time jumping into the virtual realm. Why did you do it?
I think a couple things. One, I think it's that continual quest for new sounds,
Yeah.
and you can only wring so much out of an existing piece of hardware.
Mm-hmm.
One, two, in the keyboard group, I saw a lot of people talking about virtual rigs, and I was kind of halfway there. I was using Camelot Pro to automate patch changes between the two keyboards and
Okay.
show lyrics, and so that was sort of a rudimentary beginning. But then really started the transformation to the virtual rig about a year ago.
Okay. That's awesome. So with this whole transition, it seems like you were kind of dabbling. Did you find before you integrated Camelot that keeping your keyboards in sync was really challenging? Like, is that why you reached for it?
No, I was really smitten by VSTs and virtual instruments, and I think I was kind of disappointed by the caliber of instruments that could be had for like an iPad.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I got to go all in
Yes.
on VSTs on a real computer if I'm going to do this right.
Okay. Wow, I love that. So we're going to talk a little bit about, well, we're going to talk a lot about the transition, but like high level overview, you switched to Gig Performer, and how many songs roughly is in your general set list for your mixtape junkies?
Just a little over 70.
Okay. And what was the full length of transition from when you started to now?
Yeah, so what really pushed me into it, to really get off the bench and on the field was Ken Matson.
Okay.
He's a fellow moderator at the keyboard group, and he went before me, and I was getting a lot of counsel from him and watching what he was doing and able to do, and I was just really impressed by that. So that would have been about a year ago.
Okay.
And then it would be a couple of months later by the time I had a MIDI controller and a mini PC, and then really got to programming kind of over the summer, I would say, July-ish.
Yeah.
And then went like crazy.
Yeah.
And I was done with all 70 by New Year's Day.
Wow. Okay, so it's a massive amount of songs, but it sounds like you were also navigating components you needed to do it well and to do it right. And so all things considered, that actually is quite fast for 70 tunes.
Yeah, there were a few things that I made some regrettable purchase decisions. I got the Mark II or so the Mark III Arturia key lab, and I just couldn't be happy with that key bed, and so I sprung out for the Mark III, which I should have gone to in the first place. Started with the Focusrite interface and realized that wasn't playing very well with my PC. Moved over to Motu, so there was fine tuning on the plane in the air.
Yes, right, absolutely. Okay, let's do this because we've got a lot of ground to cover, but I do have one more question first.
Yeah.
Why did you stay hybrid? What does it give you that you wouldn't have if you were just VST based? Like, what are the advantages of going hybrid?
Well, I think it sort of keeps one foot in the hardware world.
Yes.
But I will tell you, I can imagine a future where the Modi X gets replaced and I go full virtual. But this was my way of trying it on in a serious way.
Yep.
And making sure that I can do this, I can navigate this, I'm happy in this ecosystem. And since I am, I'm probably not done.
Yeah, right. Right. And a lot of guests come on and say this. One of the advantages of a virtual rig is that you don't have to ever be done. when you move between, a motif and a MoDX, you really want to stay in the box as long as possible because an upgrade is extremely expensive.
Yes.
Not to mention whatever has changed, and there's learning curves and all of that stuff. But when you're virtual, an upgrade is very inexpensive. It could be as low as the next sale on the VST that you want. And even if you're going with a MIDI controller, it's still a fraction of the price of a piece of hardware. So you're basically purchasing the freedom to evolve, right? I mean,
that's a huge motivator. Yeah. I mean, you're future proof, right?
Yes, absolutely. All right, cool. I want to do this. Let's talk through your software first, and then we'll zoom out to the hardware that supports it, and see where all of that takes us. So I'm going to move us to a shared screen here. Oops, I brought David on accidentally. He's secretly watching us. Let's see here. Okay, so we've got on the screen right now your Gig Performer rig, which let me actually pull it back up. It seems to have disappeared on me. Not a big deal, though. Okay, what are we looking at?
So this is just one of the panels for a song. I'm in setlist mode now.
Okay.
Got Head Over Heels queued up here with a couple of variations going through it.
Awesome.
And so, and I've got, under the skin, there's the wiring configuration, and I've got a ton of available plugins to me. It's really it's an embarrassment of riches, if I'm honest.
Sure.
To have. And the other thing that's so cool about this environment, this ecosystem, is that you can put any two things together. If I want to put a 1970s suitcase Rhodes together with an OBX, I can do that.
Yep.
And it's not available anywhere other than this environment.
Yes, absolutely. So what actually are we looking at on the screen? Can you just talk us through the signal flow, and then maybe you can play a bit for us?
Sure. So what we're looking at here is, so again, we're sitting in the wiring for Tears for Fears Head Over Heels.
Yep.
And I've got 3 layers on the piano part, and then a Vox pad that layers in with that, and then the pizzicato strings that are so prevalent in the verses. And then those are running into, so I've got Piano Tech, a grand piano, as one of the piano instruments, two different sounds coming from Pearson Platinum, which I think is a gospel musician's product.
Okay.
And then the pizzicato strings are coming off of a Korg M1, and I think it's a layer of at least 3 different pizzicato sounds, octaved up and down, and really it's a very big sound.
Okay. And I just want to point out, so we're at 4 synths with 2 audio effects, and your resting CPU is 7%.
Yeah.
And you're live streaming.
Yeah, live streaming. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Can you show us? Can you play this so we can hear what it sounds like?
Yeah, sure. So for those who don't know Gig Performer, you're going to see things light up, and that's the flow of the signals. So it's very simple, very intuitive, and visual, which I absolutely love. So Yep. Here we go. And so that's
Yes. It's a massive sound, Paul.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yes. And all of that is being, based on what I'm seeing with my hands, that is no splits, just layers.
Just layers, yeah. And I love to layer because, one sound can be good. And I've got an example, if time permits, I can show you later. I've got 3 sounds put together that on their own make no sense until you put them in the context. I mean, it's kind of like cooking, right? I mean, you got to have the right ingredients and mix them properly, and you can screw it up, by the way, but it's reversible here. And so, yeah, so.
Awesome. Wow, that's amazing. So let's talk about this tune before we move on in the context of your set list.
Yeah.
Is this everything you need for the whole song, or do you have some other stuff going on in your hardware?
No, I've got 3 variations, all software.
Okay.
And so the head over heels intro that you just heard. Then we go to the verses, and I'll play just a little bit of that. What happens is it preserves the piano sound, but the mix of the piano instruments changes, and the strings and pads come up.
Nice.
So I'm using a foot switch here. You're gonna see this move.
Okay.
When I click it to the verses. So here's what that sounds like.
Is that this? So, just so folks can see, this is what you're using?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'll put your stuff back on. You can play it and show us now.
Okay.
Oh, it sounds so good.
That's the great big pizzicato.
Yes. So can you show us the wiring view for this and talk a little bit about how you're setting up those splits?
Yeah. So let's go over here. And basically the splits, so these 3 instruments, actually all of these instruments except the pizzicato, travel together. And so they're set up in a zone that ends about here.
Okay.
And then the rest of this is all the piano keyboard sounds.
Okay.
And then the pizzicato sits up in the top. And so I've got ranges set in each of the orange boxes to correspond to that split point.
Awesome. Can you open up one of those MIDI in blocks so users can see what you're talking about?
Cool. Yeah. So if you look at the keyboard here, you can see that it goes dark at this B up here.
Yep.
That's where the range of the piano sounds ends and where the pizzicato begins.
Got it. And so you just have those identical MIDI in blocks that are setting those ranges so that you have a nice simple key split.
That's right.
Yep.
I've got some songs with more complex splits. I think I get as many as maybe 4 in some. And maybe a little more if I'm doing one shots as a part of that song.
Yep. Maybe one day you'll reach Ken Matson level and you'll have like 15 splits on 88 keys. We'll see.
Ken is my Yoda.
I'm busting your chops a little bit, but okay. So I'm seeing what's happening here. Can you talk about, because I'm looking here and when I'm checking out your setup, I can see that. Is this locked? Let's see if I can unlock it. I can see that you are, let me zoom out. Screen sizes. I can see that you're using one, rack space here on the left. Where is the next variation coming from when you switch? Like, what does that rack space look like? Or are you using snapshots?
No, they each have that's a great question. They each have their own panel.
Okay.
So here's the intro hook.
Yep.
Verse, chorus, and then we do the extended version with the instrumental broken at the end. So that's just really the.
I didn't hear that.
Because I didn't add the listen to.
Do you want to throw it in quick? I can walk you through it. Just add the just right mouse click and add a global 2 global rack space.
It's okay.
Okay. Okay.
It's just one sound. It's really not that terrific.
Okay. Okay. Great. Cool. So it's moving to another rack space here. And then
Correct.
Is there a third rack space?
There are 3, yes. So there's the intro.
Yep.
Which I actually come back to later in the song. There's that instrumental before it goes to the outro. And this is verses and choruses. And the primary difference is the levels of the sounds. in the
Got it.
mix. And then broken is a whole new sound altogether.
Got it. Okay, this is my question for folks who don't know. You talked about revisiting a particular rack space later in the song. Can you talk about how setlist view easily allows you to revisit rack spaces?
Yeah, so we're over in set list now, and I put together, I called it Brett's set, and it's a host of different songs that I might reach for as we're talking here. But you can see that we're under Head Over Heels. There's the intro. I can go over and look at the wiring diagram for that and advance through it. But if I want to move things around, so each of these has a rack space attached to it. So you can see here I've got Head Over Heels intro hook attached to the panel for intro hook.
Yep.
And verses attaches and so on.
Yes.
And then so that's how that's all working. And then to create this, it took me, because I keep all of my songs in a gig file, and then just create new set lists for the need. So you can drag and drop these things into any order you want. I even drop in markers for the end of sets, or where we're going to take a break and the singer's going to speak a little bit.
Yes.
And so there's a visual aid, that's easy to build. It took me, to pull together, I don't know what I've got here, 7-8 songs, and it was 10 minutes of time, with including dropping the listen to blocks in each.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's pretty cool to be able to order your stuff, Okay, what I'm trying to say is, you don't need to create identical rack spaces to use a rack space more than once. And we're just first song in here, and you're saying, hey, I revisit this sound. Well, in Gig Performer, you don't need to revisit the sound by duplicating it. You can align a rack space to a song part. So if you have to do piano, organ, piano, clav, piano, strings, that one piano sound gets reused and just assigned to the next part of your song. Which is kind of fun and fast to set up, right? Because we have, when these, here you've got your song parts, and my face is in the way, but I'll move me over, and you have your rack spaces right below. So it's really very easy and fast to get that set up, which is pretty cool. Are you using any snapshots, Paul?
No, not currently.
Which is kind of cool because everybody uses it differently. Let's talk about this. Can you tell users what is this? what is this that we're looking at here?
Yeah, it's very small, but I know what it is.
Okay.
So that's my pedal configuration.
Okay.
That is a simplification, believe it or not. I followed Ken's lead and went with a Nectar Pacer for a while.
Okay.
And I found that I wasn't getting the utility out of it. The value per pound just wasn't there for me. So I rolled back to something a little more simple. So what we have is a volume pedal on the left that's controlling the volume of the Modi X. I don't need one today on any of the other sounds. And then left, we see a silver and a black pedal, 2 pairs. The silver is the sustain, the black is the mod, and then the FS6 with 2 pedals, the silver thing far right. That's what's advancing me backward and forward through Gig Performer sets.
Okay, so you're able to hands-free move between your sounds with your right foot. Very cool. Very cool.
And so what that does, the benefit of that is, there's no dead air between songs when you're able to move on the fly. I've seen bands where sometimes they choose, they're just going to yammer between songs, but this gives you the capability to just keep rolling.
And it frees you up to play. Yeah, like in some circumstances, your hands are way too busy to press the next button, right? Even in the middle of the song, which is kind of cool. So you're like hands free and you're rolling, which is cool. Can you go through again? What are you doing on these guys here? These left 2 black and whites, the FS. I missed that. The left set of 2.
Yeah, so the two pairs the silver black pairs are identical. The
Okay,
left is a 5U, which is I'm using that as a sustain pedal,
got it.
and the black is the 5L, which is a latch, and then
Got it.
I'm using that to trigger like a Leslie sound
Got it. Got it.
effect.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. This is really cool. And I guess while we're here, should we talk about some of your other components and then we'll jump back into your sounds? What
Yeah, sure.
what do I see here? What is this?
What you see there is that's the rack that houses the brains of the operation.
Okay.
And that's a 6 space. I've slimmed it down to a 4 just to make it a little bit lighter and more practical. But what's in there is a Furman power strip. Beneath that is an AC Infinity thermal fan so that the PC doesn't overheat, so it's drawing air up and out. And then underneath that, in that iteration, I had my IEM to the left, a little Shure receiver, and then to the right, a radial key Largo. And then beneath, and just above that, sorry, I'm having,
Yep.
it's so small.
Yeah, yeah. No.
Just above that, sorry, the light blue box on the left-hand side in the middle there, that is a Geekcom mini PC. It's about the size of an Apple TV. I mean, it's just stupidly small and
Wow.
blazing fast.
Wow.
And then to the right of that is the Motu.
Yes. I love it. Now, that mini PC is hooked up to this not so mini monitor.
That not so mini monitor, that's correct.
And is that touchscreen, Paul?
It's not. And I have some regrets about that, but
Okay.
I wasn't sure I was really going to need it.
Sure. Sure. And I guess you don't because it's not touchscreen. So you can't do it anyway, right?
Yeah. I do, just really for security purposes,
Yeah.
for comfort. I do have a small Logitech,
Oh,
keyboard
yeah.
that,
And I can see that. That's sitting right here too in this picture, right?
yeah, that hangs out on top of the Modi X. It's really, break glass in case of fire kind of thing.
Yes.
I haven't had a call on it, but it's
Yes.
there if I should need it during. I mean, that's the thing about Gig Performer is you get yourself set up and you just go.
Yes. And
Nothing weird happens.
right. Yeah, absolutely. And how much gear would you say you're taking with you? So I know you have your 2 keyboards. Is it your 2 keyboards plus that box?
2 keyboards plus that box plus the associated cabling.
Yes.
And then I use IEMs, but I also have an EV powered wedge that I bring along as sort of a stage fill monitor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good picture actually.
This one. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the backside of the rack. I've got a powered USB hub there, and that you can see the colors going across the top. So everything in the rig is color coded, like blue goes to blue, yellow goes to yellow, and that speed set up significantly. And then I've bundled things into like mesh sleeving.
That's
So
this
I've got
image,
a
yes.
USB. Yeah, I've got USB sleeving that or USB snake that carries all the USB cables to the main rig. So the power and the video signal for the monitor, and the USB signals to the 2 keyboards, and also a USB signal to this little tiny keyboard thingy that I use for advancing pages inside of mobile sheets.
Ah, okay. Very cool. We love mobile sheets. I'm assuming you're happy with it because you're using it.
Yeah, I am happy with it. I don't have lead sheets for every song, and so it just follows along. I've got it changing lead sheets or lyric sheets as I move through the set.
Wow.
So I'm not worrying about controlling 2 things at once. The only reason I'm using this little gizmo here, 4-key keyboard, is simply to scroll through pages. And there's probably a way to do it, but I just ran out of time and patience.
I hear you. Okay, this is awesome. So let's jump back for a moment. Do you have another tune you can show us that maybe one that embraces I'm losing my train of thought, the hybrid essence of your setup?
Yeah, I'll reach for Money for Nothing.
Okay.
I'm really happy with that one. It makes heavy use of both
Okay.
instruments, and I'll give credit where it belongs. So the sounds on the Modi X It's the one set of sounds I'm using that are not my own.
Okay.
So all credit to Narf and Francis for his programming. It's absolutely brilliant on this song. And so, yeah, so I'm going to put my headphones back on.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to play just a little bit of the intro. I'm going to skip around in the intro.
Yes.
So imagine your CD player is skipping a little, so it doesn't take up too much time.
Okay.
So that's just a little of what's going on there. People stop when we start a song that way, and our singer's singing the Sting, I Want My MTV, stuff on top of it. And of course, it really swells to that big drum fill. And Francis did a brilliant job of, I'll show you this. He used the expression knob here to create these. Oops.
Yes.
So he set me up for success with that, and I wasn't gonna not use it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds amazing. When you hear that, of course you stop and look at so much sound. Can you explain what is where? Like, how did you set this up? What's hardware? What's software?
Yeah, so everything on the ModiX is software, is hardware.
Okay.
And for this song, it's the stuff that Francis built for the intro.
Okay.
And then I moved to 2 different Hammond sounds once we get into the song itself.
Okay.
So it's hardware is hardware.
Yep.
Software is software.
Got it.
And up there, I've got this ridiculously in your face DX clav kind of. And then I've got another for comping, and then I've got a strings patch up here. So we've got 3 different sounds across the board here that really take me through the rest of the song.
Wow. So there is notable benefit to going hybrid. First of all, everything stays in sync because does Gig Performer change your patches, or do you use your ModiX to drive Gig Performer?
No, Gig Performer is driving the ModiX. So you see the MIDI out block here?
Yes.
Every panel has a MIDI out block that is sending a CC command back to the ModiX and pulling up the right sounds from it.
Wow. Yeah, so this is awesome. You get access to all of your stuff on your hardware the moment you change to a song in your set list, and everything blends together.
That's right.
Go ahead.
And Mobile Sheets advances to the next lead sheet.
Oh, very cool. So how is that working?
Let me just open Mobile Sheets here.
Sure.
So we're in Money for Nothing, and I'll use my little gizmo and advance through the lead sheet, and then let's go to another song. I've got to find one that's got. I'm not getting another one to come up here. I don't know why that is.
It's totally fine. Do you know?
Sorry.
It's okay. Is it sending program changes out of the, out of the song parts?
Oh, here's why it wasn't doing it, Brett. I was in panel mode.
Yep, I wondered if that was the case.
Yeah. So let's try that again. We get over to cars. There's nothing there. Goodbye Stranger. There, you see that came up when I toggled to that. Money for Nothing, same deal. So yeah, and it forward and back.
Wow. And are you sending program changes out? Is that how that's set up?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. We have a great article either on the blog or in the community forum for getting that set up. Or did you use that, or did you chart your own path to set that up?
No, I definitely use that.
Okay.
That's that's one thing for anybody who's watching who isn't a user. Holy smokes, the support is rich and deep between the user community. I mean, you'll hear from David himself, and the videos that there are hours of video. I've watched some of it 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
But the support is outstanding. So yes, I did that one by the book with mobile sheets.
And the upside is, should you have to move these songs to another set, all of those settings come with you. Meaning, if you had to export one of these songs, it would also bring all of the rack spaces and also bring all of the settings to control mobile sheets.
That's
so
right.
there's a lot of staying power when you're moving your songs around if you find the need to do that. Okay, that's awesome. What else did you want to show? I feel like maybe Goodbye Stranger was one you were talking about. Is that true?
It is true.
Okay.
I'd actually there's a few here that are really neat.
Okay.
So I'll just, you and I spoke about this, and I'll just share this briefly. Sometimes when you need a sound, you just happen into one that is exactly right, and you don't have to do a thing with it, and that's rare, right?
Yep.
But it happens, and so Cars is actually a great example of that. So we'll look at the wiring. I'm using a poly mode and a chroma.
Okay.
And the poly mode had this sound on it that was just absolutely perfect. I'll just do a little bit of the introduction.
Okay.
So you can hear it. But they had this.
Oh, it's so good.
I'll go back to the panels for just a second, because at the end of the song, he puts a phaser on it. So I just want to show that. You can see there's another chunk here that is end instrumental solo, and this phaser button here is going to turn on when I go to that, and it's going to affect that lead line.
Okay.
So now it's this.
Wow. So, first of all, that sounds awesome. Second of all, can you talk about how variations work? Like, what is a variation and what's the benefit of using them?
Well, you can use the same configuration and just have different, like, in essence, what's happening here is that the second variation is simply turning the phaser on.
Yep.
So you don't have to create something entirely new just to add a phaser. You just create, a second instance. I'm using the wrong label.
Yeah.
And have that do something different with the configuration you've already got in the rack.
Yep. And all of that is memorized, for lack thereof a better term, or remembered by widget status, right?
Yes.
So those widgets. Go ahead.
I don't use nearly enough widgets, but there happens to be some here for that purpose.
Is there also a lead level bump, or that one stays the same?
I think there is a lead level. Yeah. Yeah. So if we go back.
Yep. I see it. Yeah. So it gives you that instant switching, right? No pops, no clicks, instantly adjust those parameters. And the other thing that I love about this, Paul, is that there actually aren't a ton of widgets. You just have on the screen there what you need to see.
Yeah, it was in the early days, Brett. I really felt like I was not using it properly by not having scores of widgets, because there's some beautiful panels that show up in the users group. And I'm like, I must be doing it wrong. But I've got more blank panels than I do panels with widgets.
Yes. And that's true. Like, if you don't need widgets, then you just don't need them. You can only have in front of you what you need to see. And it's a real thing when you're performing to need to reduce the amount of inputs. Not like audio inputs, right? But you have the stimulus of what's going on in the audience. You might be dealing with lights. You're dealing with very hot sound. And so you don't need to see 400 knobs on your front panel. You just need the minimal amount of things necessary for the control.
That's right.
It looks like Sean is saying instant switching. What I meant was it switches instantly. So you can move between sounds or variations without pops, clicks, no delays, as you're showing here. I see here, yes. So Sean Johnson music, yes, the sound switch instantly. And Dave Balden actually has a question for us. So Dave, if you're ready, I'm going to bring you in, but I've never brought Dave in before, so we're going to have to swap out David for Dave B. So hold on one moment here. All of this is live on the internet. David's face is frozen. Hey, David, we're going to add Dave Balden to the stream, and here you are. All right, Dave, welcome.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Hi, Paul. Good to meet you.
Hi, Dave. Good to meet you.
Now, I'm doing very similar stuff to you live, and I also have a pretty hybrid rig, pretty much like yours. When you get a new song to do you find yourself gravitating more towards your Modi X or to Gig Performer to create those new sounds?
We've got a list of new songs to add. We haven't added much new, but I'll tell you, I'm going to Gig Performer first because simply the comment I made earlier about I can see a future where I'm entirely virtual. So I don't want to invest in hardware that may not be part of the future.
Yeah.
And it actually, to that point, when I made the decision, I stopped putting stuff on the Chronos before I punted it, because I knew I was keeping the Modi X. So there are entire songs that are just on the Modi X today for that reason. But
yeah.
I think, anything new, wow, I'm going into that massive library to start, unless there's something very native to the Modi X that I know is going to just nail it. I'm going to start virtual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm doing the same thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I guess both of you guys are Modi X users. Are there ever any instances where you're using the Modi X just as a controller?
Not
I guess
in
that's
my
for
case.
both of you. Not your case. Are you, Dave, or no?
I have actually got a Phantom. A Phantom 07.
Got it. I thought you were both using the same one.
Yeah.
Do you ever use your hardware as a controller?
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I actually mix. I'll have internal sounds on one split, Gig Perform in another part, or layers. So
okay,
I really quite mix and match. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for popping in, Dave. I appreciate that. It's a good question. Speaking of which, if you have a question, feel free to type it in the comments. I am watching them. It just so happens that Dave B does some work with us and was in the Zoom room, so I brought him in to just ask it live. But if you're watching on YouTube and you want to ask a question, you don't need to come on screen. You can just pop it in the chat there, and we'll pull you in. And Ken said he's using his Nord Stage 3 as only a controller these days, which is awesome. I love that. Okay, so just bringing it back, you were showing us cars. I know you prepared a couple of other rack spaces. Is there something you want to show us next?
Yeah, in no particular order.
Okay.
For different reasons, and they'll be just really quick snips.
Yeah, sure.
I'm mindful of time.
Sure. No, you're good. You're good.
So I'm gonna go to Walk of Life. I really appreciate how important it is for a keyboard player to get the sound right.
Yeah.
Especially when that sound cues up the song that you're about to play.
Yes.
And so, that Tears for Fears example is a great one. Goodbye Strangers and Other Time Permits, we'll come around to that.
Okay.
But I haven't practiced this one. This is one the band has had on the bone pile. So
okay.
Actually, Dave, the guitar player, is going to hear this for the first time.
All right,
here.
Dave. All right, Dave, the guitar player. I love it. Yeah. Okay, I hear where you're going with it. Yes. Yes. Can you walk us through the wiring on that, Paul?
I'd love to, because I take the headphones off again, put them back on my knee.
Okay.
Because this is the one I was talking about earlier, where the sounds just have no reason to be together.
Okay.
And yet they are. So
Okay.
I've got two different SIP synth instances here. with different sounds on them. It's a FM synthesis DX clone.
Okay.
Then a third one over here. And so I'm going to go into the mixer and just solo those three sounds just quickly. Okay, that's that one. Here's that one. Organ. Okay, I get that. That makes sense. And independently, you would never say that's Walk of Life until.
Yes. Yep. And they all come together to create one cohesive instrument. Are you running that through a compressor there? Is that the RC24?
That's a reverb, actually, that I quite like.
Okay. Who makes that one?
I think it's Native.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep. I know this one, actually. Now that I'm seeing it, I recognize the user interface. I've actually seen that in quite a few of your rack spaces. So is that your go-to?
Well, it's funny. So no, it is now.
Okay.
It's all part of the journey, man. I tried a couple of different reverbs that, they all promise to be that sound. And then I came across the Native reverbs, and they're just a class apart from the other things that I had. So the reason you're seeing it so much is it actually replaced other reverbs that were programmed earlier on in my programming journey. Yes. But now it's kind of my go-to unless there's a very specific, like spring reverb sound or something that, is better on another tool.
Yep. And the DX7 is notoriously challenging to program. Are these all presets that were a part of the DX7, or are you also a secret master of DX7 programming?
I am no DX7 ninja at all.
Okay.
It's a black box to me. I did a little bit of tweaking in these, but again, this was one of those fortuitous things where, if you're cooking and you put the right ingredients together the right way, you'll get an okay dish.
Yep, which is another case for going virtual, because if you are not strong in sound design, we're really at a point now where if you at least know the device the song was made on, there is a high likelihood that there will be something extremely close, if not identical.
Yes.
And yeah, go ahead.
And there are instruments that have capabilities that make them valuable. So I find myself reaching for Roland's Enology quite a bit.
Okay.
And I've got a Korg M1 that I quite like. And one of the reasons I like it is the architecture is similar to the Kronos. And so there's a familiarity to it, but also within that instrument itself, you can create just ridiculously big stacks and layers. And so those pizzicato strings, they were all on the M1.
Okay.
So, and then a similar one from And She Was, that little brass section. So that's a little bit of And She Was.
Yes.
And that's, I think, 5 or 6 different brass patches put together as an ensemble inside the M1.
Wow. Okay. First of all, that sounds insanely good. Second of all, do those widgets do anything?
Yeah, I think they do.
You don't have to touch them if you. But no, that's okay. I just am wondering because I love your light use of widgets. You're not doing anything that's not absolutely necessary. So I assume because you don't know what they are that you don't touch them at this point. It's just done.
They may have been there for volume at one point. So,
yep.
Here's the inside of the M1. It is 5 different brass sounds rolled together.
Wow. Yep, and it sounds huge. Okay. I love that. There was one other question I had about this. Oh, okay. Let's talk about the Roland's Enology a little bit because there's a phone home issue with Xenology, right? So can you talk about how you mitigate that? Using it in your live performance rig so that you know it's going to work when it comes time to play.
Yeah, I err on the side of caution. So if I know I'm leaving the house, I'll pull up Roland Cloud and phone home like you're supposed to. And so I've never had a problem in a live environment. I will tell you that a few weeks ago, after a bit of not playing, I went to pull up some sounds here at home. It wasn't any place, it wasn't rehearsal or anywhere. And both my D50 and the Xenology had defaulted to demo mode. So I had to phone home and get them, they reset just fine.
Yep.
But and I have trouble with Roland Cloud sometimes. I have to literally uninstall and reinstall it. I don't know what's up with that.
Okay.
But so that's a hazard, a known hazard of dealing with Roland Cloud stuff.
Yep. And so you knowing this up front helps, but you've still made the choice to use it. Is it just because the sound quality is that high that you're willing to deal with that?
It is.
Okay. Well,
it is, and I had to have a D50. I had to have a DX. That was a board I lusted for in my college years, and that's the other fun thing of this is, if there's a board you played or you knew, a Jupiter, a Juno 106, a DX7, even the M1, they all exist in pretty good shape out in the world. So the DX7 was really a bit of a passion buy. I'll tell you, the internal architecture, finding sounds, the library is awful. The Xenology, on the other hand, is phenomenal. So, from the same people, you'll figure, but so that's why it's the quality that's worth the hassle.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's great. Being aware of the pitfalls and being able to make a choice is great. And if you are using that and you're kind of on the fence about it, we also do have the auto sampler, which is very robust, or robust enough to sample it if you're playing it live and you don't want to have to phone home, is always an option, especially if your sound is static and you're not dealing with altering any of the parameters, it is also an option. Okay. That's awesome. So go ahead, Paul.
Sorry. Speaking of sampling, we haven't touched on this yet, and I am watching the clock.
Oh, you're good. You're good. We're doing okay on time. We're doing great.
But I had some one shots. I had to take off the Chronos.
Okay.
And so I got decent sampler and pulled those one shots in very easily. And but there was one sound that I absolutely had to have off the Chronos that I was able to sample, and it's from the beginning of the Heart of Rock and Roll, the Huey Lewis tune. It's that reverse piano, very notable. Again, it's a sound you're going to know as soon as you hear this and the heartbeat.
Yes. And did you use Auto Sampler, or how did you pull that in? And what are you using to host it?
I'm using Decent Sampler.
Okay, great. And did you use Auto Sampler to record the samples?
I think I did. It was quite a while ago, so I'm sorry. I'm hazy on how I got it.
No worries at all. Auto Sampler is always an option. It's quite easy to use, and we do also have a whole video explaining how to set that up. Okay, can you show us you were showing me something that you used Piano Tech for, and they're one of our partners, so I'd love to show that.
So I use Piano Tech for a few things. I'll hit two very quickly.
Okay.
There's one that I threw in at the last minute just because the grand piano, I think it's the YC7. And the little trick here is I've got an IK Multimedia Hammond underneath it.
Okay.
So that's. So that's a ridiculously good acoustic grand. And the trick here is I've got a Hammond layered with it in just the upper register.
Yes.
So it's not coming through in the bass notes.
Yes.
So that's.
Can you show us the wiring for that?
Yeah.
And for folks who are watching, we do have a mutual 10% discount with Piano Tech users. So in your user area, if you own Piano Tech, you can get a coupon code to purchase Gig Performer at 10% off. And vice versa, if you're listening to Paul's sounds and you're like, I want that sound, you can get your Piano Tech 10% off through our partners program. Okay, what are we looking at here? So we've got MIDI in going into the Piano Tech stage 8. And then the Hammond B3. Okay,
Simple.
cool. And how do you keep it so clean? Like, even in the right hand, you've got a lot of rhythm happening there. And sometimes when you layer piano and organ, it gets just super muddy. What are you doing to mitigate that?
Well, you got to keep the organ level reasonable.
Okay.
To know it's there, but not have it overpower the piano. And then just smart damper pedal work.
Okay. Okay. So you are sending the damper pedal into the organ. You're just trying to be gentle with it.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. And on many organ VSTs, by default, your sustain pedal is mapped to the Leslie speed. Is that not the case in this particular VST?
Not in this it is. No, it isn't. I don't think it is in this VST.
Okay.
And so I'm using the Boss FS5L as a mod switch to trigger the Leslie.
Okay. Awesome. I love it. Cool. All right. You said you had some other Piano Tech ones. And folks, as we're coming up to the end of our time, we've got a master on the stream. So please put your questions in so we can get them answered by Paul directly. All right. What's next?
I was going to reach for Goodbye Stranger.
Yeah, let's do it.
So this is a couple of different EPs, again, out of the Piano Tech collection.
Yep. It's so good. It's so good. Okay, so how did you get that sound? What are you doing?
It's just a straight layer. I really didn't do anything special with the instruments themselves.
Okay. So you've got two different... Are the Piano Tech 8s identical, or are there two different presets?
They're two different presets.
Goodbye Stranger. There it is.
So that one I tweaked a little bit and named it and saved it.
Yep.
And I'm using a Mark II along with it to add a little bit more sparkle.
Okay. Cool. And then I see you've got that running through a chorus and that the key reverb there as well.
Yeah, and I love the Juno 6. It's so simple, but does a great job. And there's a good chance it was used on this recording.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Is that Juno 6 the VST just an effect, or is it also an instrument you're just not triggering?
No, it's the effect.
Okay. Got it. Awesome. I love it. Very, very cool. Yeah, so much as possible here. How long did you feel like it took you to understand the graphic matrix structure in Gig Performer? The wiring view.
I got it almost right away from watching the videos. I think that was the easiest concept because I am a visual learner, and it's just so intuitive. There's no strips. There's no matrixing things. It's just so straightforward. I got that immediately.
Okay.
It was the finer points that took me a little longer, like how it all works together, how the panels can be used to create songs, and then the set list function. And I just had to chew my way through it.
Yes.
But it wasn't hard. Just took time.
Yes, absolutely. And Ken Dayton wants you to pull that song. Can you quickly pull up a song that isn't in the set list? Oh, okay. So this is a practical question. How do you deal with songs you didn't plan on playing, if that's a thing for your band?
Happily, it's not. We do hold songs in reserve, and so I will stack them at the end of the second set. But there's this great function that I learned not long ago, where if on my keyboard I hit Control F, and I want to go find something with the word rock in it, we're going to go to Rock the Casbah. I just double click on that, and bang, there's my song.
Yes, and you can just hit enter too, so you don't even have to click, which is kind of cool. So yes, the quick song finder is amazing, and Ken, I know you were saying, can you quickly pull up a song that isn't in the set list? Dave B, who was just on moments ago, actually created a solution for doing this because his band, which is also a cover band, has no set list ever. So he never knows what is about to be played, and he's actually created an extension for Gig Performer that allows him to do that really, really quickly. It's got its own window. It's very powerful, and every show that he doesn't know what he's going to play until his singer calls it. We have a whole episode of how he does that. You can check it out. I'll link that in the description after the stream. But yes, it's absolutely possible, and Gig Performer does support some third-party add-ons through extensions, which we also have a page that documents. So it is possible by way of what Paul just demonstrated, and also by way of the Dave B's extension. So powerful option. Yeah, set lists are helpful though, right?
Yeah. And I would add, for Dave the guitar player specifically, Gig Performer is amazing with guitars, and a lot of players use it for their. I mean, Dave, I know you're using a Kemper setup, but this is another way.
Yep. And there are some benefits as well, which I won't pick apart all of that, but we do have videos by Igor Paspalj, who talks about using it for guitar, and also Cameron Winters, who does a great job using Gig Performer for his guitar rig. Okay, friends, this is going to be our last call for questions. So if you have questions for Paul, do put them in the comments. But Paul, this is the question I ask every Gig Performer user who comes on the stream. If you had to give one brand new Gig Performer user a tip or suggestion to get them started on the right foot, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that the software is rock solid and it's going to do what it says on the tin.
Wow.
Think hard about what you want to use around that. What does the rest of the rig look like? And what kinds of sounds do you think you're going to need? I bought some stuff that I haven't touched from a sound standpoint. And so there's an element of planning, but the learning curve is not hard on the software side.
Yep, absolutely. That's a great endorsement. I love it. It does what it says on the tin. And what you use to control it with, what you put inside of it, is totally up to you. So it spans genres. It spans, whatever musical style it is. And we actually have somebody coming on named Borum Lee, I believe sometimes in May, who's the keyboard player for Pretty Lights, who's doing DJ music with Gig Performer. So it really does cover everything, and whatever you put inside it and control it with does have a big effect on what it's going to sound like, because you're driving the sounds that are inside of it. I love it, friends. Well, don't see any other questions coming in, so I'm going to say that we're about time. Paul, this was awesome. Thank you for coming on, man.
Thanks for the opportunity, Brett. It's been a blast.
Yes, absolutely. Ton of fun. Friends who are watching, we will be back next week with Tim Storace, talking about Rush cover tunes. But Paul, we really appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.